here we go. Last class, we introduced paradigms. And paradigms were similar to an era. An era in history is a period of time where some stream of thought or some critical action is dominant in that particular era. And so our paradigms, the three critical paradigms that we're going to focus on in this class are functionalism. Say that. Functionalism. Functionalism. Give me some of your energy. Conflict theory.
Conflict theory.
And symbolic.
Symbolic.
Interactionism.
Interactionism.
So symbolic interactionism. Those are the three paradigms. The first paradigm, functionalism, is the most dominant paradigm because it's about tradition, it's about history, it's about norms, why people do things. And when you have tradition, it's really difficult to change that. Because that tradition, from a functional perspective, is based upon a full societal vote. And then that winner, that winning idea, is the consensus. The winning idea is the consensus. So we have laws in society. We have rules. We have regulations. We have all these things because, as a whole, this is what we want. Like a democracy. We vote on this because this is what we want as a society. And so if something is based upon just this general understanding of what most people want, it's going to be very difficult to change the direction of most people. Now, you can change the direction of one person or of, a small group, but to change the entire thought process from micro level, organizational level, and an institutional or macro level, to change that for a large group of people, that is really tough to do. It is really tough to do. So it's tough to say, oh, we want equal rights for women. Let's throw that out there again. If we want equal rights for women, we're going to have to change how most people think. We're going to have to change how people understand women's roles. What are their expectations at work? What are their expectations at home? And then we're going to have to go to all of these businesses, and we're going to have to go through all of these organizations, and we're going to have to go all through these laws, religious perspectives, and we're going to have to bounce all of that off of religious beliefs, political ideologies, economic sanctions. All of these things we're going to have to change with most people to transition out of a functional perspective. So that's why functionalism is so dominant, is because in order to change the consensus, you have to change the majority. And that takes lots of work to do. Lots of work, and it takes lots of time. So functionalism has remained extremely dominant over time. And we've had periods of time where people, fight for change, and they understand that there are these issues of inequality. Inequality means that there's a group of people who are unequal because they don't have access to some type of resource, access to something that they need. So they're not equal because they don't have equal access. And that process is called inequality. So this model is a conflict model. And usually you have a group who has power, and you have a group that, they don't have as much power for whatever reason. And so in order to reach a consensus with conflict theory, both groups have to lose something. Because you're never going to have a situation where you have equality. Instead, we might see equity. And so this is sort of repeat, but I'm just trying to get your feet in the water, just get you understanding where we're coming from. So when I say you have to give up something, I mean that you have to negotiate. You have to negotiate. Because remember, in a functional society, this group who doesn't have power, they're not in the majority. So otherwise, they wouldn't be heard. But maybe we can give you food stamps. maybe we can negotiate a way to use our tax money to give this group food stamps so that they have food to eat. Now, I may have to give up some of my tax dollars to get you food stamps, but at least you have something to eat. Now, I may not fill up your entire refrigerator, but I'm going to give you access to something to eat. So you're not going to totally win, because I'm not going to feed your entire family every single day and give you steak and eggs and potatoes and give you enough money to eat Cracker Barrel and Red Lobster every day. So you're not going to fully win. I'm just not going to feed you everything and take care of everything. We're going to meet in the middle. I'm going to give you food stamps and I'm going to spend some of my tax dollars. So I'm going to lose something. Now, I may not benefit too much from you receiving food stamps. But if there weren't a conflict theory and the majority had to say, you know, am I going to give money to these people who aren't working? Anybody here want to just give up your tax dollars to give food stamps to someone who's unemployed right now? Is that on your list of things to do today? Probably, maybe. Maybe some. Yeah, maybe. It depends. You understand? Everybody's different. But to get people to actually do that, we have a process where we negotiate conflict and we try to help people on the bottom. It's called a bottom-up approach. Sometimes we have to give something to help those who are without, those who are in an unequal situation. And so this is a dominant model that we'll use to talk about so much. But the thing about it is when you start applying it, it gets a little interesting, to say the least. If we start talking about criminal behavior in particular, it gets a little rich, a little deep. So we're going to try to do that today. So we're going to have a functional model that we use, and then we're going to have a conflict model that we use. And we're going to think about criminal behavior. So sometimes a person who does not have power is going to act out a crime for a particular reason. And when they act out crime, we have to decide how much we're going to punish them, or why we're going to punish them, or we're going to think critically about the punishment. We're going to think about circumstances in society, like we're going to think about whether all people have basic needs that they need to achieve. Like, for instance, if I decide that I'm going to go out and steal a loaf of bread from the corner store because I'm hungry, are you going to charge me with the same charge, same crime, as someone who goes out and, steals a very, very broken down car? The car may not be worth anything, but is there a difference between a person who steals bread and a person who steals a broken down car? Our functional thinkers will say no. Our conflict thinkers will say, why is this person stealing bread? Does this person not have anything to eat? What's going on? What would cause someone to go out and to steal food that they need to eat? Are they stealing this food because they have a baby who's ill, who needs it, and they can't get the instant gratification, so they go out and they take this? Well, why? Why are they doing this? Conflict theorists want to constantly ask the question, why is this happening? What's going on? What's the problem? What circumstances in society create this need for this person to be involved in this particular type of criminal conduct? Well, functionalists do not care about why somebody did something. They may care about the person. They may be sincere, loving people. But the idea is that you've taken something. You took this bread. You stole the bread. You are a thief. You took something that belongs to somebody else, and there may have been other opportunities out there that were legal, that would allow for you to eat, like food pantries, soup kitchens, or you can go down to a local office and ask for assistance in some type of way. There's a way for you to get food in a legal way. without violating the rules and regulations in society. There has to be a way that you can feed this person. You can even take this child to the hospital and say this child is, at this point, experiencing some type of dehydration. And the hospital will give them a piece of bread. They will give them something to eat. So there are ways that you can address issues without breaking the law. And that's a more functional perspective. Functionalists aren't going to ask questions like why. Their logic is going to be, society has basic needs. Here's the law that you broke. Here's how you violated. This is how you violated whatever someone else's necessities were. And here are the charges that you're going to assume for violating those rules and regulations. They do consider severity of crime. Remember, I told you, I said go out and find out about a crime. Do research. Find out about a certain type of crime. Find out how someone is breaking the law if they commit that particular crime. Functionalists really want to know the details. They want to know, what did you violate? Why did you violate it? What did you do? They want to know that. But they're not concerned with your justifications for, well, I needed this or I needed that. We just need to figure out what you've done, how we punish you for what you've done, and we need you to learn a lesson. We need you to know that you don't break the law. That's not what you do. That's the reason why we have laws. We have laws in place right now so that people can follow them, so that we have social order, so that everybody in here is safe. Why in the world would we have a law if we just wanted people to go around and just do whatever they want? That's why we have a legal system, to keep you safe, to protect you. So that's what functionalists are focused on when you talk about law. They're focused on protecting people and making sure that people don't violate rules and regulations. Conflict theorists, on the other hand, they have similar concerns, but they want to have more of an understanding about our system and how the rules and regulations in our system may be designed sometimes in a way that they hurt some people and not others. That some people are punished more severely than others because of the actual rules that we have in place. They want to evaluate the system. They want to make sure that the system isn't taking advantage of certain people or putting people in a predicament where they can't win. Is the system itself generating inequality? Are the conditions in the school system right now creating a possibility where a student will be without opportunities in the future because they haven't been taught what they need to know? What's going on with our system? And people like Max Weber, who talk about power and how, from a bureaucratic perspective, those of you who did chose Weber for your homework, talking about the rules and regulations in society. If we do something about the rules, if we alter the rules so that they help people, then people can increase their status. They can increase their power and their performance. But if the rules are working against you, how are you ever going to win? If there's a set of rules that stop you from growing, that stop you from being successful, how in the world are you going to take it to another level? You can't, because the rules are hurting you. So conflict theorists are all focused on what are the rules and regulations that stop these people from getting food stamps? Why do these people make so much money, and how come we can't contribute something to this particular group of people? These people don't have any food to eat. Is it going to hurt our system to provide them with something to allow them to grow? So they don't steal. Well, maybe we need to provide food stamps so that people don't steal bread. So that's how we end up having food stamp programs. Because people are looking at the crimes that are committed in society, they're looking at the rules and regulations, they're seeing what people are being violated for, and they're using this as a context to say, what can we do in our system to make society more safe? What can we do? Maybe we need to have social programs. Maybe we need to have community service programs. Maybe we need to have rehabilitation programs. Maybe we need to do more than just have a system where we're doing this, they call it just desserts. Just desserts punishment, that means that an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You do something wrong, you're gonna know. You're gonna know what you did, and you're gonna understand why, and I bet you're not gonna do it again. I'm gonna set an example for you. I'm gonna set an example for the community. I'm gonna punish you, and everybody around you is gonna know that we aren't gonna do that. We saw what they did to Johnny. Oh no, I'm not gonna do that. Well, conflict theorists, they think there's another way. You don't have to just have this retribution, this idea that, you do something wrong, you get severe punishment for it. But we have to think critically about what is happening in our society, and we have to think about whether we want people to remain criminals or whether we want them to change and adjust and to make different choices. So sometimes we might say, let's give this person a community service. Let's see how this food stamp program will work. Let's see how these other things will work, because it's about bottom up. It's about trying to bring the people on the bottom up just a little, and everybody's sacrificing something. But we're not going to create a system that is what Karl Marx referred to as socialist. We're not going to have a system where we just give everything to the people on the bottom, where everybody has the same. That's not what this is all about. Conflict theory is not all about everybody having the same. It's about doing something. Sometimes people refer to that as the Band-Aid approach. So conflict theory can be challenging for us, because sometimes if you put a Band-Aid on something, you pull the Band-Aid off and you just see that white, pussy, stinky mess. Band-Aids don't always help. Food stamp programs aren't always going to be the best solution. Providing somebody with some type of community service or doing something to rehabilitate them, it doesn't mean that it's always going to work. So there's lots of discretion, and it's more subjective. Conflict theory is so much more subjective than is functional theory, which they refer to as an objective reality. And you see that here. When they say functionalists see the world as being objectively real. What is objective? Quantitative analyses. Numbers, statistics. 1 + 1 = 2. We have a crime. We've proven that you've committed that particular crime. You have a particular punishment that you're going to play out. And justice has been served. That's what the system is all about. You do something wrong, you face the consequences, and then you move forward in any way that you can after you've violated the laws. Everybody understand that? That is objective. So for number 2, with the functional analysis, if we want to relate crime to the functional analysis, we're going to talk about the law that has been broken. What are the punishments? How are you going to punish this person? Give me an objective reality. What have they violated, and how are we going to punish them? That's as objective as you can get. Tell me how you're going to punish this person for what they've done wrong. Positivistic view of social science. That means that we're going to base things on statistics. We're going to base things on a clear-cut reality. We're going to use quantitative measures. If you commit this type of crime, this is how much time you get for committing that particular type of crime. No fuzzy business going on. We're going to be very specific, because some people believe, honestly, that information coming from the expert is going to be the information that's going to take you to the promised land. You're going to become more knowledgeable. You're going to get the right answer. You're going to get a concrete understanding, because you have an objective reality being given to you at that particular moment. You know exactly what the situation is, and you know exactly how you have to deal with that particular situation. No guesses, no, I don't know. Not about how people feel, but about the rules. Oh yeah, Johnny, he been out there trying to get a job, putting in those job applications every day. But I see him there with that little baby, and I know that little baby is hungry. So, I kind of felt bad for Johnny when I saw him get busted taking that bread. They should do something. Somebody should give him a food stamp book or one of those little cards or something so he can get some food. They shouldn't arrest him. They should give him one of those cards so he has some food. That person is not using a positivistic perspective. That person is not thinking using an objectively real criteria. That person is basing their ideas on values. How they feel. Oh, I'm so sad for Johnny. You know what? Johnny broke the law. Johnny stole bread from my store, and I stocked that store up because I worked hard and I saved money to put it together. If Johnny wanted bread, Johnny probably could have asked me for bread, Maybe I had bread in the back. Maybe I could help Johnny in some type of way. Maybe we could do something for Johnny. But once this becomes a legal issue, we're going to base things on an objective reality. What did you do? What crime did you commit? What laws did you break? And how are we going to punish you? What laws have you broken? How are you going to be punished? Not how do we feel about it. Are we sad? Are we depressed? Do we wish it didn't happen? No, that's not objective. This idea here that, you have this rational thought process, think with your brain and not with your heart. Because if you think with your heart or with other parts, then you're going to have love and you're going to have, emotion and chemicals going off and things like that. And you're not going to be using the objective approach. You have to think using rational responses. Connect 1 and 1. 1 and 1 equals 2. Not 1 plus, she's really cute. No! Johnny's really hot. I know he stole that bread, but he's good looking. That's not a functional perspective. You have to set aside those values. You have to set aside those emotions and feelings and just think about what somebody did, and they have to deal with the consequences. That's how you have social order. That's how you keep society together. That's how you keep structure. You can't have, something, and this goes, I'm shifting over to conflict theory for a second, just so that you see where I'm coming from. You can't say, just because this person has this amount of money, we're going to forgive them for this crime. You can't say, this person committed white-collar crime. It was a different type of crime. They did murder lots of people, because they dumped those chemicals in the water, and the little babies were born with big watermelon heads, and the mothers died. That happened, but we're not going to punish them in a way that we would a person who comes in the classroom and shoots everybody. We're going to punish them differently because they have power. Well, a functionalist would say, you just killed such and such people, and you need to be punished for what you've done. We're not going to take into consideration values and feelings and these other conditions, but instead we need to think critically about what you've done and what that means for society. So, mindset. The mindset is objective. Very conservative. Bless you. Very conservative. Is conservative good in this situation? Yes, it is very good for those people who are thinking using this particular perspective. Yeah. Because they want to prove that somebody's violated something, and we need an objective list of punishments that relate to the crime. It's very fair. Isn't that fair? Somebody may not think it's fair. We got to think about feelings and emotions because I'm a heart thinker. I'm the big heart. The needs must be met for a social system to exist. So the macro level function is that we have an institution of some type. We have a system, be it political system, economic system, education system, religious rules and regulations. We have to make sure that this institution satisfies the needs. So that police officer has to arrest this person for what it is that they've done. Because that police officer can't use random discretion and let that person get away with something because it's their friend. No. That police officer has to make sure that they punish somebody for whatever it is that they're doing. So from a functional perspective, we know that everything is working out if we make sure that basic needs of our citizens are met, so that we don't have people out there committing crime, breaking the law, taking my things away from me, hurting me. I'm safe. I'm fine. 2, that there's an objective system out there, so that I have a system that is going to document how somebody should be punished for certain behaviors that they act out on a regular basis. And I know it, and I understand it, and my neighbor knows it, and my neighbor understands. So we can have a consensus. We have a relationship. We understand. You're my neighbor, and you understand that you don't come in my house and take my eggs because you're hungry. You don't walk in my kitchen and, you know what, I'm get some eggs. Come on here, get some eggs. Let me see if they have this. Oh, they have some rice too. I need some rice for dinner. Let me get some rice out of her cabinet. And then I know I broke this lock. Let me put some gum on it. Stick the gum on the lock. Okay. Go home and cook. Frying my eggs. You know, getting my rice ready for dinner. You can't just go in somebody's house and take their things and do whatever you want. You have to follow the rules. So we have a relationship, you and I, as citizens in society. We know that our system is going to be functionally correct if there are rules and regulations that protect us. That protect us from the fools. The people who want to do whatever they want to do. The people who don't want to follow the rules and regulations. I have to be protected from that. That's why we have laws. We have laws and regulations to protect you and I from people who want to do whatever they want to do. And so there's a concrete set of rules that keep me and you safe. They keep us safe. They keep us ready. They keep us prepared. We know that we can go outside of our vehicles and walk the streets safely without somebody taking their car and driving over the sidewalk and running us over because they're not following the traffic laws. Well, the person driving knows that there's a set of rules and regulations that they have to follow when they get that driver's license, because that's how our system works. We have rules and regulations no matter what you do. There's a code. There's a code of conduct that you have to follow. And if you don't follow that conduct, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. You're going to get in trouble. You know, in church, raise your hand if you've ever been in church before. You know that there's conduct rules in that church. Within that religion, there's certain functions, there are norms, there are expectations. You know what you can't do. You know that. Maybe someone hasn't written down code of conduct in church. Take this home and sign the bottom of it. You know what you can and cannot do in the house of your Lord. You know that. That's how our laws, that's how our legal system is supposed to work. You understand the rules. So whether it's the political system, the economic system, you all understand about money, right? You know that you can't get a sheet of paper and draw something on the paper and go in the store talking about, I owe you, this is my money. That's not your money. That's not money. That's your sheet of paper that you drew something on. Nobody's going to give you any food with that sheet of paper with some silly shit written on it. That's not money. It's not money. So we understand the rules. We know that. You know that you can't go on your computer and print out some money and go to New York and Company, whatever the store is called, and buy you new pants, BOGO. Buy one, get. You can't do that. So you understand. You understand that. Isn't this called BOGO, right? Yes. Okay.
I've never heard of it.
Well, BOGO. That's BOGO. Buy one, get one. So no matter what the system is, the economic system, political system, religion, whatever it is, you know there's a set of rules and regulations. And whatever criminal behavior that you all selected, it may fall within one of those systems. One of those systems may have a set of sanctions or rules where that system is responsible for punishing somebody for something that they've done. They're responsible. If that system doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then our functional requirements are not being met. We have to have individuals that make good choices. We have to have organizational norms and rules and laws and things like that. And then we have to have a system that's being held accountable to make sure that all of those things are in place and that those people are punished when they do something wrong. You see, those are the three main ideas with functionalism. Those are the three main ideas that we're going to follow. I'm going to go over the three main ideas with conflict theory, then we're going to start doing examples so that you know how to do your homework. But those are the three main ideas for functionalism. One, in your homework, the first thing that you have to do for the first paragraph is explain and describe these three main ideas. Go to the PowerPoint. If you choose functionalism, go to the PowerPoint for functionalism and read what these three main ideas say and explain and describe. What does that mean? The first main idea says all societies have certain basic needs. Then you go on to explain what each of these bulleted points mean. Functional requirements have to be met for a society to survive. Remember, Durkheim tells us that life is like the body. Every body part has a function. And if those body parts aren't functioning properly, you're going to die. So that's how society works. Every person in this room has a role that they have to play out. And if you don't play out your role, you're going to cause chaos. You're going to cause a problem. My students in this classroom right now, if you don't behave yourself, if we have one student in this class that decides that they don't want to conduct themselves properly, that one apple could spoil the bunch. That one person could spoil the experience for everybody in this class. That's why everybody has to play out their particular role. So I need you to go through this PowerPoint and look up these three main ideas, which are right here. You just press the button and they're there, you know. And you need to explain and describe each of the three main ideas. Go through each line and tell me what you believe this means. You're not going to integrate anything about crime. You're not going to talk about anything that you researched already with your crime. The first paragraph is explain the three main ideas of either functionalism or conflict theory. Now, you're going to pick one. You're going to pick either functionalism or conflict theory to explain whatever criminal behavior you all did your research on. But you have to explain the three main ideas in that first paragraph. You're not going to go to the other slides of the PowerPoint and write down randomness. I don't even know if that's a word. You're not going to write down random blah, blah, blahs from throughout the PowerPoint. You're going to go directly to these three slides and explain and describe. Because what you're going to give me, what you all don't know, is you're going to give me a micro level, organizational level, and macro level understanding of the functional perspective or of the conflict theory perspective. Are you all with me on that? So your first goal is to explain the paradigm. Describe the paradigm. Describe the mindset that's being used when we do our analysis. Raise your hand if you have any questions. Ask me any questions that you have about that first paragraph. Do you have any questions about where you find this information? Is everybody all set? Lesson 2.
Okay.
Sakai. It says, PowerPoint number 2, functionalism. PowerPoint number 3, conflict theory. You open up those PowerPoints and you scroll to the slides that say three main ideas. And the homework question asks you to tell me about the three main ideas. There are no tricks. I don't want you to lose any points. Explain all of it. Because all of it is important. Because all of it will help you understand what these functional thinkers are meaning when they're introducing their material. And remember, when we talked about paradigms, that was the broader perspective of the mindset. But remember, when we introduced the question, what is sociology? There were those units of analysis. And each of those main ideas tells you, from a functional perspective, this is how they will think about micro level. This is how they'll talk about micro level, you see? From an organizational perspective, objectively real. That's what they're talking about. Objectively real norms, objectively real laws, objectively real perspectives about groups. That's what they're going to be talking about, those functionalists. From a macro perspective, they're going to be talking about institutions. Remember the word institution connected with macro? They're going to talk about the institution. They're going to talk about the responsibilities, how important institutions are. They're like organs of the body. That's what they tell you. Our political system, if your political system is corrupt, your body will die. The system will fall apart. If the political system is corrupt, if the religious institution is corrupt, if the economic system is corrupt, you're not going to survive. That's what functionalists talk about. See? So this is a really easy way for you to actually learn the micro level, organizational, and macro level concept that deals with this particular paradigm. Remember, it gets deeper, it gets more complicated as we move forward, but the paradigm is the umbrella. The paradigm is the umbrella. All right. Now, conflict theory. You ready? We talked about this just a little bit before. I explained that the conflict paradigm became dominant in the 1960s. You all remember that? I said the conflict paradigm became dominant in the 1960s. Why? Because of this whole idea of supporting individual rights. So we are concerned now with life, liberty, and property of society as a whole. Not just life, liberty, and property for the people who are in the government or the people who have lots of money or the people who have access to power, but life, liberty, and property for everybody. So that means that we're going to focus on gender relations, race relations, disability services. We're going to be focusing on a lot of issues of inequality in the 1960s because our goal is freedom. Our goal, we say, is equality. But the only way that we can get to equality is via baby steps. Because if we try to create this mass change at one time, we will not be able to penetrate the functional society. Remember, in order to get everybody to go along with this as a whole, to get most people to go along with it, you have to penetrate them one step at a time. Because it takes time to change values, it takes time to change feelings, it takes time to change emotions, it takes time to change the rules in the system. It takes time for you to change what you think about a group. So some of you have had an interpretation that was given to you about a particular group. That can't just change because you watch a television show. It's going to take time, it's going to take experience for you to change your mind about a particular group. You would have to interact with lots of individuals who didn't show you something. Or you would have to see institutional change to convince you. Or maybe somebody affect your pocketbook in some type of way. Well, if you don't treat these people correctly, you're not going to get a paycheck. So sometimes we need laws and rules and regulations in society to get people, to force people to accept others. I'm going to force you to respect this particular group of people who are in my classroom. If you don't respect this particular group of people, you're going to fail. If you don't do these three things, you're not going to be socially mobile. So that's what we did with our legal system, you understand? We penalized people for not living up to the norms. Because we had to. There was no other way to change the functional perspective. We had to show people that this is a law. This is a rule and regulation. If you break this rule, you're going to be punished. So you can no longer treat certain people in ways that you treated them in the past, because if you do it, you're going to jail. So we had to make legal sanctions. We had to create laws and rules and regulations to protect the people who were on the bottom. Because otherwise, people would do whatever they wanted to those people. Why? Some of them weren't even perceived of as being human beings. Others weren't respected as men, right? Men. Human beings. Mankind. And so what do we have to do? We have to have a new way to understand things. A new way to look at it. And what is central in this philosophy is conflict. Conflict. They say that life is characterized by conflict. Not that we're going to focus on the needs that everybody has. We're not going to start off focusing on needs. We're not going to start with this idea that we all have basic needs. We're going to understand that everybody's needs are distinct and different, depending on how you grow up, where you live, what obstacles you have to go through, what you have access to. Everybody has a different set of needs. And so instead, we focus on conflict. I got to try to help you make sense of this. Why would we focus on conflict? Because if you have a problem in society, then people aren't going to be happy. Remember, the goal behind functionalism was to have a happy, harmonious society. And we did that through a consensus where everybody voted and the majority rule determined our happiness. Well, if we have a problem, then society's not going to be happy. So we have to try to do something about this. We have to address conflict so that we don't have rules being broken later, so that we don't have people being disenchanted and uncomfortable and unhappy. So another way to get to happiness is by evaluating conflict. So we don't always have to punish somebody because they aren't meeting a certain standard. sometimes we have to address conflict to create laws. Not just based upon what the majority wants, but based upon the problems that we have in society. Think about how this relates to your life. When you make choices, are you always making choices because this is what everybody wants me to do? Or are you sometimes making choices because you're in a situation? And now you have to figure out, what am I going to do? What am I going to do about this? Now, I may not have the resources to do what everybody else is doing, but I have to figure out something that I can do with the resources that I have available right now. Do you see how that happens? Has that ever happened to you? Have you been in a situation where there was a problem and you said, how in the world am I going to figure this out? What am I going to do? I got one apple and one banana. How am I going to make a fruit salad? And you have to figure out how you put those apples and bananas together to make whatever it is that you have to make. And the reality is that everybody does not think about things the same way. Everybody doesn't feel the same way. And when you think about a conflict perspective, let's put this in the perspective of law, okay? It's a concept called mens rea. Mens rea. And that is all about the guilty mind. Is your mind guilty when you're taking an action? If you look at the circumstance, if you look at the actions that are played out in the situation, if you evaluate the outcome of the event, if you look at all of these things, did you mean this in the same way that another person meant this particular, whatever this activity is? Because there may be conflict. Your intentions may be different. Sometimes people act out a crime and their intentions are distinct. Okay, you know what I just did? My doctor told me to take 3 of these pills. But you know what? I still have a headache. But Ray Ray has another bottle of these pills. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get those pills from Ray Ray. And I'm going to take the whole bottle. I'm going to take the whole bottle of the pills. And I bet you my head will feel better after that. I may not know what the hell is going on in the world, but I'm going to feel a lot better with those pills. You know? Ray Ray's not going to sell me those pills. Is he? Will Ray Ray give me the pills? Or will Ray Ray sell me the pills? Well, you know what? Ray Ray knew that I had a headache. And Ray Ray gave me the pills. But guess what happened after I took those pills? I died! Oh, I died! I took all those pills that Ray Ray gave me, and I freaking died, man. I was out. Done. Dead. I was out.
Did you feel better now?
I don't have a headache. And so Ray Ray is going to be charged with murder. Because Ray Ray gave me a bottle of pills for my headache because I didn't have any insurance or any money to get these pills. And Ray Ray didn't know I was going to take them all and kill myself. But Ray Ray is being charged because he gave me these pills. Unauthorized distribution of drugs. Life is characterized by conflict. And norms and values are not equally accepted by members of society. So sometimes, unlike functionalism, which is based upon this objective reality and this concrete set of rules and regulations that we have to follow, sometimes we have to think critically about what has happened. And sometimes there has to be an exception to the rule. You know, maybe we don't charge Ray Ray with murder, but maybe we charge him with a lesser crime. We charge him with a lesser crime because of whatever that reason is. But that happens with white-collar crime as well. You know, sometimes, you know, this business, you know, there were legal sanctions for dumping chemicals, and the legal sanctions said you couldn't dump chemicals past this particular line. So they dumped chemicals over here. This is the area that we purchased to dump these chemicals. We didn't know that there was going to be a tornado or a hurricane, or we didn't know that a natural disaster would occur to impact the flow of this chemical. So we don't want to be held responsible for killing 2,000 people because there was a rule and regulation for the dumping, and we dumped right here. And for whatever reason, that spill moved over, but I followed the rules and regulations, so I didn't want to be charged. My intent was not to hurt anybody. I did not mean to hurt anybody. This happened, but I didn't mean to do it. Those are feelings, right? Those are rules and regulations, conditions, circumstances. Conflict theorists think critically about those types of things. And it can change the legal outcome. It can change the outcome of how you punish people and why. Because it's a different mindset to use with regards to law. Sometimes you go into a jurisdiction in society where they're punishing people and their entire framework may be conflict-oriented because they're more liberal. Sometimes you go in another area in West Virginia, as compared to Maryland maybe, and they may use a functional perspective when they're deciding whether someone's going to go to jail or not. Every jurisdiction that you go in, there's going to be a mindset of some type that the lawyers and that the judges and that, the jury, all of these different people, they may use a different mindset when they decide whether someone has violated the law or not. The paradigms show you how in the world that we live in, people on certain topics just tended to be either more conservative or more liberal in thinking about how they treated people, how they would understand people's actions, and what their expectations were for behavior. Sometimes the expectations were more conflict-oriented, and then other times functional. And it's just a mindset. It's just, how some people think. And some of you, like I said, you're going to be diehard functionalists on some topic. This is what my grandmother taught me this. You're going to debate with my grandma? Go for it. So sometimes grandma is going to tell you something, and you're going to believe that for a very long time or for the rest of your life. Because you trust this person, you value their opinion, and what they give you has helped you to be a great person, the great person that you are today. And so if you're very functional on the topics, it's going to be difficult for somebody to sway your way. You got certain regulations, certain requirements, certain rules, and that's how you decide what you want to do. So some of you are just functional thinkers, and it just is what it is. Nobody can convince you otherwise. These are the rules, and you're not changing. You're not bending. You're not moving. But these conflict theorists, they'll move. They'll shift. They're open. They're open to different ideas. They're more open. They're open to seeing things in different ways, seeing the world using a broader interpretation, per se, of what that is. More likely to say, well, let me understand why this person stole this bread. Back to the bread again. Why, in fact, did they do that? Was there another opportunity available? Is there a soup kitchen? Instead of punishing this person, can we instead sign them up for these 3 or 4 soup kitchens and get them linked up with a social worker so that they can try to move forward and make better choices? Do we actually want to punish this person, or do we want to think critically about our institutions and what services might be available to help this person? So we don't always punish people when they violate the law. Sometimes there's a different way that we come to this conclusion about what we need to do about it. But you're really only going to get to that method using the conflict model. But if you use the functional model, they're going to go to jail, and then after they get out, hey, buddy, here's some papers on the soup kitchen down the street. After you serve your month in jail, I'll give you information, but you have to serve the time first. You see? Next, the relationship between and within groups is weak. That means that everybody is not the same. I'm black. I know you all didn't.
No, I didn't know that.
You never?
No.
I thought I would disclose that information today. It's been a while. But, I thought, I'm an African American. I don't know, So you may have thought, oh, maybe she's having a one. But anyway, and, my mother, she's an African American woman too. But we don't make the same choices, We don't see the world in the same way. We don't even like the same food. We don't like the same food. We don't shop at the same stores, you know. We don't have the same hairstyle. We don't like the same type of guy. Times when you're basing things on this functional reality, there's this assumption that people who commit a certain type of crime are all committing that crime for the same reason. Or people who look like this are more likely to take this type of action. Or, you know, people who live out this particular role will think in this type of way. Collective consciousness, right? Karl Marx wants us to have a collective consciousness. He wants us to shift toward functionalism. He wants there to be a collective society where this group can think rationally and understand what's going on. But the reality is that it is not that way. And even Karl Marx says the relationship between groups is weak, and that's what Karl Marx wants to change. He wants to change this idea that there's a false consciousness in society. People don't understand what's going on. So they're saying here that the rich people, those who have power, that they're creating these definitions about people. So they're telling you who the criminals are. They're telling you who the evil people are. They're giving you a description of who the lawbreakers are. They're telling you who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And conflict theorists say there's no true definition of what a criminal looks like, or just because somebody grows up in this particular neighborhood and they don't dress the way somebody else dresses, that doesn't mean that they should go to jail for the rest of their life because, you know, or they don't have a good character. You know, we did a character witness, you know, this person dresses like a bum, so they're going to go to jail. Conflict theorists are like, yeah, you know, we gotta do a better job. We have to do a better job than that. You know, we have to think critically and not try to throw these people in boxes and just judge them in a certain way because they belong to a particular group. Remember, conflict theory becomes dominant in the 1960s, so they're trying to have you look at individuals, people for individual reasons. Look at me for me. Don't compare me to cousin JoJo or Ray Ray. Look at me as an individual and assess who I am. Don't put me in a box and start judging me like this other person who was charged with doing serial killing. You know, base my criminal conduct on what I've done, not based upon some script of the street three-strike rule that you have where you want to send me to jail for the rest of my life instead of looking at the reasons why I actually did this. So the relationship within and between groups is very weak. Within a group means that all people who look the same or have the same ethnicity or whatever, they're not the same. The relationship is weak. And it also means that you and I, we're different, I guess. We might be really the same, who knows. But we look differently, and we probably have different cultural ideologies. But it doesn't mean that my relationship with you is going to be the same as my relationship with her. So the relationship between groups, we can't judge, we can't say, oh, just because, you know, they have characteristics that are similar, that means that the relationships are going to be the same here. No, because everybody is different. Everybody is different. We started talking about, mostly this is all about black versus white, black people versus white people. In the 1960s, that's what it's all about, polarization. The whole idea that, you know, every white person is not going to respond to every black person in the exact same way. So let's stop making these assumptions and let's start treating everybody like an individual. Let's respect each other. And let's not throw us into these boxes because everybody's different. Everybody has something different to contribute. Everybody in this room can love, can't you? And I can love you back. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter what community you grow up in. Doesn't matter what your sexuality is. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Doesn't matter if you're older than me or younger than me. You still can love. You're a human being. And I just treat you with respect. I need to acknowledge you for who you are and what you can do. That's why conflict theory is really important. You know, we're not just judging people because of these stereotypes and throwing them into group boxes. We're really trying to understand individuals and trying to give people a chance instead of stereotyping them and treating them as they did all these other people that were treated a certain way in the past. The same as functionalism, but more so about respect. The last criteria, the macro level criteria in functionalism was that the institution works to meet the needs of the people. Well, here, These people have to respect their power. And the way that they do that is by joining in and having a consensus. So I respect the rules and regulations in society because they're not working against me. The people who are in power are working with the goal of meeting my needs. They may not give me every single thing that I need, but they're trying to do something to accommodate me. They're giving up something, and I'm giving up something. But I will accept their power, and I won't break the rules. So I'm not going to steal. I understand that now you can help me to have access to these food stamps. So I'm going to accept your power. I'm going to accept the fact that I don't have what you have, and that you can make rules and regulations. I'm going to take what you've given me, and I'm going to use that to try to take myself to another level. So I'm going to accept your power. I'm going to accept your position, and I'm going to accept my position. And I'm going to follow the rules and regulations. I'm doing that with the understanding that you have my best interest in mind. That you are not coercing me. That your rules and regulations aren't stopping me from growing. That you don't have a system that is designed to hurt me and to keep me down. But instead, that we're working together. Trying to make something happen. Trying to generate something positive. Not that you're trying to feed me and give me a handout. Because I don't want a handout. Anybody here want a handout? I want to do what I have to do. And I want to get what I deserve for what it is that I'm doing. I don't want you to give me anything because I can earn what I need. There's an assumption sometimes that poor people want a handout. That the people on the bottom just want a handout. That's not the type of respect that we're having here. This idea that this is a meritocracy, a society where if you work hard, then you can achieve merit. So if you put me in a position where I can actually achieve merit, then I'm going to respect you. But if you set up a system to hurt me, then I'm not going to care about your legal system. And if it works out best for me because I'm a rational thinker, then I'm going to break the law. If I can win because you don't respect me. But if this system can show that the people in power can give me something, they can sacrifice something, and I can sacrifice something using this conflict model, okay. You know what? I'm never going to steal bread again. I understand that I broke the law. And I also understand that there is a system available to help me, to give me what I need. And so now I'm going to utilize this system and the resources that are available so that I can become socially mobile or so that I can be in a position to feed my kids. And I'm going to accept your power. I'm going to accept the rules. I'm going to accept that I shouldn't steal. I understand that I shouldn't steal, and I understand the system. Now we're good. I'll accept the punishment that I get without having an attitude about it. I broke the law. But this system is trying to work with me. You're working with me. You're not working against me. You're not just out there trying to take me out. Instead, the system is working to make sure that we're as happy as we can be. Everybody's not going to be perfect. You can't make everybody happy. Everybody here understand that? That's what the system is telling us. No matter how hard you work, there's one pie. There's one pie available. There's one pot of money that you have. And you can only do what you can do. You can't make everybody happy. But you can try to do something, and you can respect each other. That's what they're talking about. So it's very different. You see how it's different? Functionalism, conflict theory, different. Second paragraph of your homework. Let's do it. Okay, so what's your crime?
Grand larceny.
Grand larceny. So if you choose grand larceny, then what is the person stolen?
Something over $200, so...
Okay, they stole something...
A car.
A vehicle. They've stolen something over $200. And so norms and values, when you explain this, when you explain what they've done, it doesn't mean that you don't punish this person. It just means that the description is a little different. So you're going to explain and describe to me, why is this person, you're going to tell me, life is characterized by conflict. This person committed grand larceny and they stole this car which was valued at such and such dollars because. They stole this car because. And you're going to explain and describe how their behavior and their value system doesn't align with the norms in society. Which means that what are the reasons why they stole this vehicle? Why did they do it? Okay? Because as a conflict theorist, we're concerned with, why are you doing this? It doesn't mean that you're going to get a lesser punishment or a greater punishment. It just means that the conflict theorist wants to hear objectively why you actually committed that particular crime. Now, from a functional perspective, we don't want to know that. I don't care why you stole the car. You stole it. So remember that. If you pick grand larceny and you're going to do functionalism, if you're focusing on number one, you're just going to tell us, this is what they did, this is what this crime is, and this is how they violated the basic needs. That's functionalism. Conflict theory, you're going to explain to me, this is what they did, this is why they violated the particular laws that exist in society. This is why their position is not accepted in our society. So you're going to explain to me why what they did was wrong. Why that's wrong to the majority. Why does the majority think this is wrong? Okay? And then you're going to help us understand that everybody thinks differently. Everybody makes choices for different reasons. That's the idea behind conflict theory. Some people steal because they have nothing better to do. Some people are out there just stealing for no reason. They can already have a car in their driveway, and they're just stealing the car because they have nothing else to do. Remember, mens rea. What is the mindset? What is the guilty mindset? How do we want to punish somebody based upon what they've actually done and why they've done it? This person could have stolen this particular car because it was actually their wife's name was on the car. And they paid the money for the vehicle. But their wife decides, I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to be with Ray Ray. So they say, well, I'm taking my car. So I'm taking my car. I paid for this car. This is my car. You want to go see somebody else, you can drive their car. I'm taking my car. So she's going to go and file a report against this person because they stole her car. But he paid for the car. But his name wasn't on the car. You see? There are different reasons why people violate the law. And by looking at this conflict perspective, then you can really dig deeply into the motivations for the criminal behavior, and you can think critically about how the court system might address the punishment. Punishment for different people, for different reasons, because we're all individuals, we're all different, we all make choices for a different reason. Is everybody with me? So if you use a conflict perspective, the way that you walk into looking at the crime is totally different, you see. From a functional perspective, you're just like, what'd you do? What's the violation? From here, it's what'd you do, why did you do it, what were the circumstances, and what does society think about what you did? Two totally different ways of looking at crime. You see how that works? But you pick the crime, and you decide what perspective you want to use. Now, if it's a situation where, it was really their car and they paid for it, and you want to talk about that using a conflict perspective, then go for it. But if the person just went out and stole it for no reason, and you think the functional perspective is the best perspective to use, then you just say, hey, they went out, stole the car, they had nothing, they went out, stole the car, they violated these rules and regulations, that's what they did. Relationship between and within groups is weak. So this means that you want to explain why you would treat this car thief differently than another car thief. Are you with me on that? So if you think this person deserves a break, or if you think this person deserves more punishment, because remember, you could be talking about white-collar crime. If somebody picked white-collar crime, and you may want to say this person who's a white-collar criminal, they may have money, but they deserve to be punished. They shouldn't be, they shouldn't receive, goods and services and the benefit of life as compared to another person that violates the same. Does everybody understand that? So with conflict theory, you can talk about how the system is causing a problem, how the system is not punishing this person in the way that they should. Either they're not giving the person enough punishment, or they're giving the person too much or too severe of a punishment. You with me? Last. If you did functionalism, then you would talk about these are the laws that they broke, and this is the punishment. Objectively real. These are the rules and regulations that are broken for functionalism, and it's objectively real. Conflict theory. The system will work when the members accept the responsibility. So your person who steals the car, they may be willing to pay a fine. And they may be willing to work to try to negotiate how they get the money back from the wife dealing with the car, or how they negotiate the idea. The system may understand that there's a problem here, that this wasn't a theft issue, but there's something bigger. This person says, I'll pay this fine. I understand my relationship to the law. I get it. I'm going to pay the fine. They respect authority. But the functional perspective may say, look, you need to go to civil court to deal with your wife. But right here, you stole a car and you are going to jail. You understand? So they may direct them, if you want to deal with this situation, there's another court that you deal with that in. Right now, we're dealing with this criminal case. You broke the law, you stole a vehicle, this is the punishment for the vehicle. The system has to work to keep everybody safe. And if somebody breaks the law,